Hi guys, it's SkintBoot here, and today what I'm going to be bringing you guys after a fairly long absence is a No Man's Sky video. Now, I know, it's been 2 weeks, and I did say initially, if you follow my Twitter page, that I wasn't going to upload until the 1.3 update drops, but I felt like because this is quite a topic which could change with the release of the update, I do sort of want to squeeze it in before it kind of becomes irrelevant and before it becomes perhaps more confusing. Plus, ad revenue is also quite low, so I need to bring that up. But I should hopefully be getting back into things now, so sorry for the absence. A load of shit has changed since the last video was uploaded. I'm caught up in real life shit and loads of internet shit, and there's just a lot going on. I won't bore you, but hopefully this is the start of a fairly consistent upload schedule as of right now. Regardless, today I am bringing you a video talking about multiplayer in No Man's Sky, because then I can use a subtle bit of clickbait and I get it in the tags and it could get quite popular and I get money and shit like that. Talking about how multiplayer could improve No Man's Sky, but also the issues that surround it. Trying to draw to a solid conclusion as to whether multiplayer is even needed in No Man's Sky for the game to improve. Now, a word of warning before we begin. This video is going to be very speculation heavy and very opinion heavy, but I'm also going to be bringing in quite a lot of pre-release information from interviews with Sean Murray. Loads and loads of shit like that, so just bear that in mind. This is quite speculation heavy. If you don't like this kind of stuff, then it's probably not your cup of tea, but I'm making it anyway because money. And I want to start off by explaining, just before we get into the actual meat of this video, what multiplayer would be in No Man's Sky. Kind of like the perfect rendition of what multiplayer would be, because a lot of people I see in comment sections and that I've spoken to dislike the concept of multiplayer being in No Man's Sky because it promotes an incorrect understanding. They always assume multiplayer to be PvP, to be fighting each other, things like that. So I just want to state that the kind of multiplayer which we would see in the game would not be this, and I'm going to detail this in just a short moment. So, as I said, I want to talk about the ideal multiplayer. This is going to be like the little start to the video. As I said, multiplayer doesn't have to mean PvP, fighting one another, any kind of conflict, violence as a whole. Multiplayer could just mean seeing other players, and this does exist to some extent, you know, with base sharing and finding other people's discoveries. However, a lot of people define multiplayer in No Man's Sky to be quite simply seeing one another. This is what a very, very high percentage of people want out of multiplayer. Nothing more than that. They just want this because this is what was advertised pre-release. Sean Murray and the rest of Hello Games in interviews never came out and said that No Man's Sky was going to be an MMO. They never said it was going to have mad dogfights with other players. They quite simply said that you'd be able to see other people. And yeah, I know this doesn't exist, but what I'm trying to get at here is that people don't expect some Elite Dangerous style MMO whole trading system with players. They just want to be able to see another person on the same planet as them at the same time. And I think what is important for a lot of people in No Man's Sky is that the game stays the same. There aren't any of these MMO-esque elements or PvP shit, but if you just so happen to be at the right place at the right time, you can see someone else going about their business. Maybe you can say hello or stop and trade, but nothing crazy like hurting them or maybe stealing their ship. Something ridiculous like that. Maybe even just visiting their bases, or just you're mining, you see someone fly over, you give them a little wave, or you talk on the radio, and that's it. It doesn't have to be some full-blown multiplayer, like start fucking shooting each other and stuff. Just as Sean Murray said before when he described it, almost like a Dark Souls kind of instancing system where you can just interact and then they're off on their day. That's all it will be. And what is good about this is that the game will still feel single player, and this keeps those that enjoy No Man's Sky as a single player experience quite happy and content, because the game doesn't change all that much. Perhaps there could even be the option to toggle seeing other players on and off like there is with base sharing, or maybe portals are the key to a multiplayer universe, and going through them enables multiplayer, exiting them disables it. We don't know, this is just mad speculation. However, This concept of multiplayer then adds this element of suspense when you're landing on planets. If the player base was of the size it was at launch, something like 200,000 players on Steam, then you would actually be expecting to eventually come across another player. And the thought of another player existing in the same place you are is exciting, at least for me. I think that would create so many cool moments, and if I know that someone is down there going about their day, that kind of motivates me to keep on playing. It's a strange kind of thing. It's almost like this kind of subtle satisfaction, as opposed to you getting this big ass prompt in your face saying XX Pussy Slayer 420 has joined your game. It's more the fact that you go down, you just happen to see someone, you get little like butterflies, you're like, oh, it's another player, and then that's it. You know, I think that's quite a nice way to go about things. So now I want to talk about the issues surrounding this kind of multiplayer, where this can go wrong, and ultimately the biggest problems with it existing. So unless the 1.3 update brings back a huge portion of the lost player base, multiplayer will simply not feel like it even exists because of the low player count. Places like the Galactic Hub would actually benefit from this, places where there are already quite a lot of bases and people that have set up, and where people kind of claim home planets, things like that. But elsewhere it would be practically the same as the game would be before. This is because, as of right now, there aren't a great deal of people that play No Man's Sky on Steam, something like 1,500 roughly each time. If this were to be, as I said, the amount seen on day one, then this would be a good thing, because it means there's more chance of seeing one another. Multiplayer feels like a bit more of a significance, unlike now. I just don't think it would have that much of an impact because of how huge the universe is, and because how there is so few people playing it. On the contrary though, a lot of people would actually consider this to be a good thing, because a wealth of players enjoy No Man's Sky as a single player game. Multiplayer would only really serve as like a subtle touch that just occasionally changes stuff up. It's more like a very occasional bit of diversity, as opposed to it overhauling the game. And I think in a lot of people's eyes, that is actually a good thing, not a bad thing. But this, again, depends on who you ask. I personally would like to see it more of a involved mechanic, more of something which has a lot more impact, but I'm not sure how they could do this with the low player count, all of that stuff. I just think that people may overestimate the value of multiplayer without remembering how unlikely it is that two people will ever cross paths. Sean Murray said it himself a million times. The chances are so small you probably never will find each other, but you can. And I don't know if this is a good thing. I don't know if people would still value multiplayer, but I suppose it's more the fact that it's there as opposed to it's not there that keeps people happy. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Then there's the biggest issue of actually getting multiplayer to work, and the system that it's kind of built upon. Like, for example, would it be peer-to-peer multiplayer? Would it be the whole player base constantly connected? Or is it some kind of instancing system? Either way though, multiplayer could prove to be too heavy on servers to actually function correctly. Or alternatively, it could require so much work because it changes the foundation of the game that it's just too difficult or basically impossible to implement. Especially if there's a boom in players, if the 1.3 update introduces multiplayer and makes the game basically what it was sold to be, then it could prove too much for Hello Games and end in disaster. Not that this couldn't get ironed out with patches and things like that, but I think it would frustrate a lot of people, and they would obviously use it as one of those jokes to say, oh, Hello Games strikes again, another broken launch, or something stupid like that. I just think with all the shit that people have put up with, you know, with the broken launch, the missing features and the bugs and all of that stuff, for them to release such a big thing and for it to not work or not be perfect, I think it would actually be really, really bad for the game. I think a lot of people would get pissy at it. It's almost like the Half-Life 3 situation. If the game releases and it's anything shy of perfect, people are going to fucking hate it and it's going to destroy a reputation. Kind of the same thing, but obviously not on that scale. And last of all, would it actually make the game more interesting? Would multiplayer make No Man's Sky more fun? You have to remember that you would just be doing what you would normally do, but with someone else. Is this actually going to make the game more fun? Well, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below, and you can answer that for me. And finally, I want to talk about the benefits of multiplayer. First of all, it's yet another promised feature that was talked about before launch and used to sell the game that would be introduced into the final product. It makes Hello Games look like they care about the product, and it brings the game one step closer to the game that was promised. And as a result of this would most likely bring back a fair amount of lost players, or perhaps completely new ones that have never touched the game before. Finally, multiplayer emphasizes the strong community No Man's Sky currently has. Things like the Galactic Hub, content creators for YouTube, Reddit posts, the Galactic Times, coming soon, more on that in the near future, and the cage matches with like Old McReaper that he does with other players and all that stuff. Like, multiplayer would just make this all final, and it would help create a closer, more official community. I feel like it's the last step to kind of bringing the community together as a whole. So to conclude, I believe that multiplayer would truly be a necessary addition to No Man's Sky in order to please people. It's a highly requested feature, one that people always talk about and always bring up, and I truly think it would bring back a load of lost players if it were in the game. So that is the end of the video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. As always, if you did enjoy, then please do feel free to leave a like on the video. If you guys could also subscribe to MZK and let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below, then that'd be absolutely fantastic. And as always, I will see you guys on my next video. This is SkintBoot, signing out.